I'm going to build the fastest team of all time, bringing in players who are known for their elite speed throughout NFL history, starting with our wide receivers. According to Next Gen Stats, Tyreek Hill clocked in at a top speed of 22.01 miles per hour during a game against the Giants, and he is arguably one of the fastest players in the NFL right now. And he will be our wide receiver number 1. To help me build this team, I will be using combine 40-yard dash times, NFL moments, sports show commentaries, and much more. But let me tell you, being the fastest doesn't always mean being the best player at that specific position, and joining Tyreek Hill at wide receiver number 2 is going to be John Ross, who ran the fastest 40-yard time in NFL combine history with a time of 4.22. And although John Ross has the fastest 40 time, we can't forget about one of the best receivers of all time in Randy Moss. He comes in at number 12 all time according to this article for being the most prolific wide receiver in NFL history. He did run a 4.38 40-yard time at the 1998 combine, and he'll be wide receiver 2 on this roster. And moving down the article, the fastest player in NFL history is Bob Hayes, whose nickname was Bullet Bob. He broke the world record at the 1964 Summer Olympics in the 100-meter race with a time of 10.06 seconds, and he will join the receivers on the depth chart. The last receiver we'll be adding to our team is DK Metcalf, who recently hit a top speed of 22.6 miles per hour against the Cowboys this season. After we build the fastest NFL team of all time, we will see if they can dominate the current NFL and win a Super Bowl in just one season. And there are going to be some players who don't make the NFL's fastest team, so if you think I missed anyone, make sure to comment them down below. Continuing with the offense, we now have to bring in the fastest tight end in NFL history, and that's Vernon Davis. He showed off his speed at the 2006 NFL Combine, running a 4.38 40-yard dash, and he'll be our starting tight end. Backing him up will be Kyle Pitts, who is technically the fastest tight end in the NFL this season. Moving on to the offensive line, and although they weigh quite a bit, some of these guys can really move fast. And since it's really difficult to find their in-game speed, I decided to go with the fastest offensive linemen based off their 40-yard dash time. Starting with Teron Armstead, who holds the fastest 40-yard time at 4.71 seconds, Brian O'Neill at left guard with a 4.82 40 time, Chris Chester at center with a 4.83 40 time, and Deontay Collins at right guard with a 4.81 40 time, and then the second all-time fastest 40 belongs to Lane Johnson at right tackle with a 4.72 40 time. Before we add the fastest quarterback of all time, let's bring in some speedy running backs. And if we're talking about the current NFL right now, you know we have to go with Raheem Mostert, who has hit the top speed of 21 or more miles per hour multiple times during his career. The next two running backs we are adding are on the top 25 fastest players of all time, and coming in at number 10 is Chris Johnson. He ran a 4.24 40-yard dash at the 2008 Combine, and he showed that elite speed during his time in the NFL. And coming in at number 2 all time is Bo Jackson. Although he did not play in the NFL very long, Bo ran a blistering 4.12 40 time back in 1986, but there's not really a way to prove that it happened during the official Combine. We now have the fastest running back trio of all time on our roster, and now moving on to the quarterback position. Michael Vick ran a 4.33 40 time back in 2001 and showed his elite speed throughout his career, setting NFL record of 6,109 rushing yards. He will be the starting quarterback with Lamar Jackson backing him up, since he finished with a 0.1 second slower than Vick on his 40 time. And just like that, we have the fastest offense of all time. So many fast players on this roster, but wait until you see what we got on defense. Starting with Micah Parsons at linebacker, who had one of the most impressive 40-yard times amongst all linebackers all time. You want to know something even more impressive? He actually beat Tyreek Hill in a 40-yard sprint at the Pro Bowl game. Joining him will be Shaquem Griffin, who holds the record of the fastest linebacker 40-yard dash time, clocking in at 4.38 seconds. Terrell Suggs was one of the fastest outside linebackers in the NFL because of his acceleration and ability to close in on opposing offenses. He'll be joining Micah and Shaquem at outside linebacker. And if you think those guys were fast, wait until you see the middle linebackers. We have Isaiah Simmons, who ran a 4.39 40-yard dash and is currently ranked as the fastest linebacker in Madden 24. Joining him will be Devin White and Devin Bush, who ran incredibly fast 40 times as well. Moving on to the defensive line, we have some really fast players, including Aaron Donald. He is one of the best defensive players of our generation, and he ran a 4.68 40-yard time at 290 pounds. The only other defensive tackle who had a faster 40 time than Aaron Donald was Kalijah Cansey, who just beat his record with 4.67 40-yard dash time. Joining them at defensive tackle will be two Eagles in Fletcher Cox and Jordan Davis. both showing elite speed at their combine, but also in the NFL. As for the defensive ends, Odafe Owe and Montez Sweat both had impressive 40 times, with Owe running a 4.36 and Sweat running a 4.41. Joining them will be another fast defensive end in Javon Curse, whose nickname was the Freak because of his athletic abilities. He's one of the best defensive ends in NFL history, running a 4.43 40 time and getting to opposing quarterbacks so fast. Amari Barno is also up there running a 4.36 40 time back in 2002, and he'll join the already stacked defensive line. Moving on to the secondary, Deion Sanders comes in at number 4 all time, and he is one of the most exciting NFL players of all time. According to this article, Deion ran a 4.21 40-yard time at the 1989 NFL Combine, and joining him with elite speed is Darrell Green, who played for Washington, and there are reports that he ran a 4.09 at training camp back in 1986. Since it happened at training camp, there was no way to actually confirm that number, but he is one of the most athletic players of all time, joining Deion Sanders at cornerback. As for some current day players, Kalen Barnes ran a record-breaking 4.23 40-yard dash in 2002, with DJ Turner and Tariq Woolen not far behind. One fun name that came up was Champ Bailey, who ran a 4.28 at the 1999 Combine, and he'll be joining the rest of the cornerbacks. To close out this already impressive defense, I'm bringing in Cedric Woods and Nick Cross as our free safeties, and Darnell Savage and Percy Butler as strong safety. All 4 of them ran impressive 40-yard times at their combine. And just like that, we had the fastest defense in NFL history. As for the fastest kicker and punter, we are bringing in Michael Badgley and Mitch Wisnowski, because they both have the fastest 40-yard dash times at their position. And you didn't think I was going to leave out the fastest kick returner of all time, right? Bringing in Devin Hester, who's one of the fastest to ever play in the NFL, and he showed that with his impressive speed in the return game. Now that we assembled the fastest NFL team of all time, let's see if they can lift the Lombardi Trophy. In the first game against Justin Herbert and the Chargers started off pretty good, as the defense was able to hold Justin Herbert to a 4th down. The offense, led by Michael Vick, had a very strong opening possession with some really nice plays, but the drive stalled out and the fastest team settled for a field goal. Unfortunately, on the very next drive, Justin Herbert ended up getting his team down the field and finding Gerald Everett in the end zone to take the lead. Only down 1, Vick and the offense got into scoring range before finding a diving Tyreek Hill for their first touchdown of the game. A big 4th and 12. Herbert steps back and throws deep for Palmer, but it gets swatted, and the fastest team of all time win the opening game of the season by just 3. Lots of positives to take from the opening game, but after simming the next 6 games, the fastest team of all time remain undefeated and are at the top of the AFC East. Michael Vick has thrown 18 touchdowns and not a single interception so far, while CJ2K already has 609 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. Donald, Parsons, and Chris are playing lights out as well. And after simming the rest of the season, the fastest team of all time remain undefeated, going 17-0 and earning themselves a first-round bye. They had the best offense in the NFL thanks to Michael Vick and his 4,100 passing yards and 47 touchdowns. CJ2K continued his dominance this season with 1,600 rushing yards and 14 touchdowns, while Tyreek Hill led the team with 1,300 receiving yards. And to no one's surprise, Micah Parsons finished the year with 23.5 sacks, which helped the Dolphins finish first in defense as well, taking on the 11-6 LA Chargers in the divisional round led by Justin Herbert. And unlike the opening game of the season, the fastest team of all time came out strong, scoring on their opening drive and then finding Tyreek Hill on a slant route to take a 2-touchdown lead. And after simming the rest of the game, the fastest team of all time ended up winning by a score of 42-7, with Vick throwing for 305 yards and 4 touchdowns. Next up is Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills in the AFC Championship game. Montez Sweat came up with a big sack on Josh Allen, and now Vick has a chance to lead this offense for the first time this game. With very good field position, Vick dumps it off to Devin Hester, who picks up a solid few yards. They continue to drive down the field, and on 3rd and long, Vick overthrows Tyreek Hill, and they ended up settling for 3. After simming the second quarter, the fastest team of all time have a 20-7 lead, and Allen was able to get his team down the field, but on 3rd and 4, he takes a sack. The Bills ended up missing a long field goal, and the fastest team of all time went on to win the game to move on to the Super Bowl. Michael Vick ended up winning NFL MVP, and Micah Parsons was Defensive Player of the Year. We now take on Brock Purdy and the stacked 49er team in the Super Bowl. The opening drive of the game did not go as planned for the Niners, as Aaron Donald sacked Brock Purdy. And on the fastest team's first possession, Vick throws one up to Randy Moss, who somehow comes down with it. He followed that up with a touchdown pass to Tyreek Hill. A couple possessions later, Moss somehow kept his feet in bounds and the touchdown counts. And right before halftime, Vick goes to Devin Hester to take a 21-point lead. Down 21, Purdy is trying to start the comeback, but Aaron Donald chases him down with his elite speed. With very little time left on the clock, Vick throws an interception to Tayshaun Gibson. Luckily for the fastest team, they have Aaron Donald, who once again sacks Brock Purdy. The fastest team of all time ended up winning the Super Bowl, and they completed the perfect 20-0 season. If you enjoyed this video, definitely go check out where I built the scariest team of all time. Right over here. Click on it.